All yours. And I'll make the
Radhe
Pallaviji
Radhe.
as
Thank you, Sunil Bhai. Thank you, Prakash ji. And thank you, Himangani ji, for such a heartfelt message. It was really wonderful to hear you. Radhe Radhe. Good morning, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Daily Wisdom from Bhagavad Gita session. Radhe Radhe, Nitin ji, over to you.
Radhe Radhe Pallaviji, thank you very much. And thank you, Prakash Bhai, Sunil Bhai, for another wonderful session, like always. So, Radhe Radhe, good morning, good evening, everyone. A very warm welcome to today's edition of Daily Wisdom from Bhagavad Gita. We'll continue on our journey regarding Karam Yog, Karam Sannyas that we are talking about. And then the topic of Karam Sannyas led us to talk about what is true detachment. And then today we are going to continue on that journey on how to what are the tools that we can employ in our day-to-day lives to build that detachment that spirituality talks about. Okay, detachment and the true meaning of detachment itself. And then, of course, we have a soul soup segment where we are talking about the willpower and all. We'll peel some more layers around it as well. And then there was a question yesterday from one of the participants in the feedback tracker and discussion talking about, the kids aspect of it as they grow, teenagers, right? So we'll try to have a bit of a discussion around that as well. And more importantly, we have a discussion, a presentation coming up on Premras Siddhant. Personally looking forward to that presentation. So I would tell our co-host to make Cash. Is she here already? Cash. Okay, so if you see Cash, it's
Yes,
K-A,
I think I saw her.
not C-A-S-H. So please make her co-host because she'll need those presentation privileges shortly.
Yes.
So without much ado, let's get started. I'm going to share my screen and we will get underway with our session topics today. So I'm sharing it. I hope you're able to see it.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to put it in the presentation mode and we'll get started then. The wheel is spinning. Okay, now you can see that. So we'll start with our opening prayers. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. All right. So again, a very warm welcome to all of you. Let's get started. So we will start with our soul soup segment. This is where we've been talking about the nuggets which enable us, the fulfillment, success, and happiness that all of us are looking for. Nobody can claim that, I don't need success. The definition of success may vary for different people. Everybody wants to, be successful. They want to feel happy. And as a consequence of it, the fulfillment naturally follows. And as part of this series, we've been talking about willpower, right? Now, today we are going to say, where do we need to invest our willpower? Willpower is it's something that you can invest because how many times you will continue to use our willpower. So we'll talk about that. Prefrontal cortex is where it resides. We spoke about it in our brain. God has created this, beautiful machinery that we are endowed with. And in that, he has given us an ability in our brain, the prefrontal cortex aspect of it, which thicker it becomes, the more willpower we can exert. And it is like any other muscle of our body. So the self-control and willpower, they reside in the prefrontal cortex. It gives us ability to do three things. What are those three things? I want, I will, and I won't. Okay, this is what your willpower enables you to do when you exert it. Now, this is what results in your self-control as well. And we have looked at different examples around how the willpower, it keeps on withering. So it's your highest at the beginning of the day, and by the end of the day, it withers down because you have expended that muscle. And that is why most of the fights at home happen during the evening, where both of you have come back from the home and a small trigger you need to pick up an argument. Why? Your willpower is running low. And most of the people, they succumb to vices during the later part of the evening only, because now that's where willpower is basically waning. Now, what are habits? Now, one part of it is, see, once if you keep on exerting your willpower for multiple things, but if you expend it to cultivate good habits, then it becomes easy. And once you cultivate good habits, then resisting unwanted urges becomes a simple routine. Habits, they move things from hard to accomplish category to easy to do and no thinking required one. So you exert your willpower to form a good habit, and then it becomes easy. Then you don't have to worry about it. And then you exert your willpower again to build another habit. And that is how it needs to go. Now, what is habit? If you look at the dictionary, the actual definition of habit is the word habit is an outfit that a nun wears. You can check it out. And similarly, we too wear our habits on our personality. And the second meaning of habit is an action you do on a repeated basis with little or no effort or no thought whatsoever. So, establishing good habits, it is a pathway to leading a successful life, because good habits are, we can reap benefits from it. And it also becomes our mindset as well. So there is a poem which says, you sow a thought, you reap an act. You sow an act, you reap a habit. You sow a habit, you reap a character. Sow a character, and you reap a destiny. So every thought, it will eventually lead you to make a habit which will define your personality, and your personality is going to determine your destiny as well. It's a much deeper thing, right? What is that habit and mindset? That is something you have to live with, not only in this life, but because the subtle body travels with us along with the soul in the next lifetime, you have to deal with the same thing. So if we invest, the spiritual gains that we do, the good things that we invest in they are very, very beneficial for us. So that is how long these habits travel, because it is directly related to your sanskars and mindsets as well down the line. Okay, so with that said, let's move to the topic of our discussion today. I'm going to recite this shloka, and we will have a few people, maybe 2 or 3 hands we'll take, because we have tons of stuff to discuss today. So we'll probably take 3 hands, not more than that. Geya sa nitya sannyasi yo na dveshti na kankshati nirdvandvo hi mahabaho sukham bandhat pramuchyate. All right, I see some participants who are joining in from bus or train. I don't know. So that is a lot of enthu. Keep it up, Shefali Sharma and Sandhya Bhatia. Go ahead. Who are the 2 hands? 3 hands. We've got 3 hands.
Yeah.
Udayji, you didn't get an opportunity other day. Can you please go first?
Yes, Udayji, Radhe Radhe. Please go ahead first. Let me please unmute you. Yes, please.
Yeah, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
स नित्य संन्यासी यो न द्वेष्टि न कांक्षति निर्द्वंद्वो हि महाबाहो सुखं बंधात् प्रमुच्यते. Radhe Radhe.
Thank you. Radhe Radhe. Rameshji, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe, Rameshji, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe, am I audible?
Yes.
Nyeyasya nitya sannyasi yo na dveshti na kankshati nidvandvo hi mahabaho sukham bandhat pramuchyate. Thank you, Radhe.
Wonderful. Very nice. Thank you. Sakhi duo, please go ahead. Where are you joining us from? Can you please let us know?
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe
We
Radhe.
are on our way to Jagannath Puri. We are in the cab to Jagannath Puri.
Wonderful.
Wow.
Yes.
That is a lot of enthusiasm joining in from a bus, huh? Go ahead. Go ahead, both of you.
Geya sa nitya sannyasi yo na dveshti na kankshati nirdvandvo hi mahabaho sukham bandhat pramuchyate. Radhe Radhe.
Wonderful. That is awesome. Thank you very much. So Riya ji, Lakshmi ji, Pragi ji, sorry about that. We have a lot of stuff to cover. So tomorrow you get the first preference. I saw a thumbs up, so that means you are okay with that. But let's move on. So this shloka, Lord Krishna is saying the Karam yogis who neither desire nor hate anything should be considered always renounced. free from all dualities, they are easily liberated from the bonds of material energy. So the key message, to take away from this shloka, as we have been discussing over the last few sessions, is if you turn your back towards the world thinking, oh my God, a lot of misery is there, I'm going to become a Baba sannyasi and go to Vrindavan or go to Kailash or somewhere, that is not the right way, okay, of renunciation, because now you're running away from misery, turning your back towards your responsibility. Only when you are situated in this knowledge that there is neither happiness nor misery in this world, that is proper renunciation, because now you're making a choice. When you run away from misery, that is called Falgu Vairagya. We're going to talk about that later, because when the misery would come on this path as well, you will run away from here as well, right? So that's not the way to look at it. Then let's continue. We're going to build on it. Now we spoke about this concept, attachment to the world, attachment to God. Now people, the first thing that comes to everybody's mind is, hey, this thing will demand my attention, and because of which I'll have to let go of things. I'll have to let go of my routine. Maybe I'll become a sannyasi. Maybe I'll become a Baba. Maybe I'll have to let go of potlucks, parties, socialization, tons of other things, right? So I don't want to lead a boring life, right? If you have to do that. So we said that God has made this concept very simple. You have an attachment to the world, which is already, that cup is full, as you see that. Attachment to God is, that cup is empty. Now the way it works is, when we talk about detachment, how do you develop detachment to the world? What is detachment? We've spoken about it's like a boat rowing in the water. So if a boat is able to navigate through water, that is because it is not letting the water come inside. So it is like living in the world without letting the world live in you. That is true detachment. You could be consuming everything around you and yet not attached to it. Now, for you to build true vairagya from things around, what are the things? My family and my kids and all that stuff, those attachments which are binding you or creating stress and worries for you. That aspect, how do we do that? Do we simply force ourselves, say, okay, I'm not going to do that or think about it? No. God has made it very simply. Your attachment to the world will be put in perspective. How? Simple. What you did was, so this is how the arithmetic works. You increased your attachment to God. So you see there's a box that has come up. So let's say you did it 10%. What happened? As a consequence, you'll automatically 10% detach from the world. You don't have to subtract anything. You simply have to add. You did it 20%. You see? So as you keep increasing, the other thing will automatically keep on getting set in perspective. So you have to add, not subtract anything. Everything else will fall in. 10%, if you have attached your mind to God, 10% you have rid your mind from worries, anxieties, stress, all the anxieties that we build about things around us, that will automatically happen. 20%, if you have done, 20% would happen. So if you want to get freedom from anger, envy, jealousy, stress, worry, speculation, all the problems that your mind has, that much percentage you need to increase in the spiritual area. The other will automatically follow. That is a very simple principle, divine principle God and scriptures have given us. Now let's talk about a topic which is a weak spot for most of the people. Dealing with their kids, that question came up as well, right? When we talk about detachment, what does it mean? Do we don't take care of them, right? We have to take care of them. Question is for how long and how, right? Do we want to become helicopter parents until they become married and now they have kids, and then also they should be dancing to your tunes? This is what you should do, this is what you should do, just because we are born in this world a few years early? Does it give us a right to know what is better for them after a certain age as well, that called helicopter parenting? Or for that matter, when is the age, or do we let go of them right at the beginning where they are pretty much on their own? The answer is the middle way. None of it is correct. Okay, so let's understand what our scriptures talk about it, and Swamiji has beautifully explained it. I picked it up from his lecture. So let's say this is a roadmap of your kid's life. Okay, I've just distributed it into certain stages. 1 to 5 years. The kid who's from 1 to 5 years, give them a lot of love. That is not the age to reason with them or torture them with your logic, because if we force them to anything other than love, and we have a tendency to tell them to see the world through our eyes, if we do that, then the world will have to deal with the same stupidity as us, right? They should become an individual of their own. So 1 to 5 years is just love. For some kids it can extend up to 7 years also, okay, depending upon some of the kids who have a little more tantrums and need a lot more care and diligence to begin with. Not beyond that though. Then what happens? So then from 7 to 12 years, it has to be 5 to 12 years or 7 to 12 years. It has to be a mix of velvet glove, love, and iron glove. Iron glove doesn't mean you start beating the heck out of them. What it means is reward and punishment, consequence management, where they understand that good behavior versus bad behavior. This is the age where their intellectual abilities are getting developed. They're still looking for validation from parents, but they're still not completely under the influence of the world and the friends as yet. So that is where you can promote some good things where we are telling them this is good behavior, this is bad behavior. If you do this, this is the consequence. If you do this, that is the consequence. And that's more an art than a science. Each parent to their own, because every kid is unique and different. This is also the time to seed the fundamentals that can start even from earlier age, right? Those bedtime stories, the foundation that we can give, a spiritual grounding that we can give, the bigger principles of life. A plus B whole square is not going to let them solve problems of life down the line. So that is where if we can plant those seeds and provide them a solid foundation, spiritual foundation on how to tackle failure, playing well is more important than winning, right? How not to, basically feel, um, what do you call that? Deal with worries and stuff like that and have more faith on God. That is the time when you can plant those seeds in them, which will help hold them in good stead in long run. And then what happens after 12 years? Typically, okay, you can only be an onlooker. We can't let go of it. That is a different thing. Then in nature, all the birds, all the species, they give us an example of how do they let go of it. Right? The eagle, it pushes its eggs. When they start coming out of the eggs from a top cliff, it just pushes it out so that they can soar and take their own flight. But humans are the one, they can't let go of it. Now they start becoming anxious because teenagers are the ones which will be the first, if you haven't faced disappointment from the world, from your family, from your in-laws, from your own home, from your relatives, from your friends, then your kids, teenagers will make you realize that they come through you, not from you. Okay. And that they are individual personalities and souls. And this is the time when either you can stress, spread, because whatever you had done, you have already done. Now they are completely, their own sanskars will take over. They are under the influence of their sang, and you can only keep your fingers crossed they have good association. Now they need validation from their friends, where the environment and stuff like that, right? With this social information explosion that has happened, the teenage depression rate and validation, need for validation has increased many folds as well. So it's all the more important to give them a good grounding and foundation early on when their minds are impressionable and they are looking up to you for validation. But after a certain age, whatever you were supposed to do, you're already done. Now you can only hope that they look upon you as a friend and willing to share stuff with you, where you can guide them based on your additional experience that you might have had. But if they don't, you can't stress or fret over it. That's why you need to have a game plan and that ability to let go and accept. Because after a while, everybody is an individual personality. And your goal of life is not to make your kid the best that you could not become. You can only hope and have a bet intent, but you're going to get rewarded at the end of your life journey for what you did on yourself, not what you did on your friends, relatives, including kids as well. Okay. So that is the key thing to be understood from a point of spirituality standpoint. Now, those kids, if they turn out to be good individuals, you have done a good job. But even if they don't, it's not that we have been a failure. As long as you have approached it with good intent, sincerity, and the best you could have done, that's best. Because at the end of the day, everybody have their own journey. They have to fly their own flight, their own sanskars. It's a pretty complex algorithm which are at play. So we have to, unless we have the spiritual wisdom, then those situations can become very stressful for you, right? So that is where it's very, very, very important. They say, right, there are 3 stages in a kid's life. The first stage is when they say, you know what, my dad can do this also. And the second stage comes, they say that, dad, you don't know anything. Okay, just listen to me. That is typically the teenage and that age. And the third stage is, my dad used to say, that is when you really wake up to the wisdom that was being imparted to you, or you understand. So the sooner that second stage and third stage, the shorten that curve is, the better it is. For some, it can take up to 40 years, 45, 50 years as well. And some just continue in that way only, which is pretty unfortunate. But then the point is that not everybody gets access to the spiritual wisdom. Not everybody can prioritize it in their life. Not everybody feels the need as well, because they're perfectly situated where they need to be. And until they learn their lessons the hard way, Maya has its own way of teaching you lessons. all of a sudden it'll pull the rug under your feet. Oh my God, I thought this person cares for me, and he was so, that moment, that particular opportunity, I felt they don't care for me. Maya has its own way of teaching you lessons. So either you learn it that way, or you learn it through wisdom, what saints are telling us, everybody to their own. You do it with a sense of responsibility, but don't build expectations, too much expectations of people around, and thinking that, they are the ones who are going to take your journey to the next level, or they are the ones who will care for you or be with you even in your afterlife journey, right? You'll all have to leave it all behind. And then your report card would come at the end of the life. Then if you don't have anything to show for other than, I put my kid to this school, that school, I tried this and that, it will not make up for a good story. What did you do on yourself is the key thing, because every bird has to fly their own flight. We do with a sense of responsibility, but beyond a point, we have to let go of it. Otherwise, we'll only end up stressing out about that situation. Then what happens? Then people start worrying about it. They start getting anxious, and then depression can set in. A lot of those kind of things happen. Now let's talk about a little bit about the concept. What prevents us, right, from letting go of stuff, and what is the mindset that we have around it? Yesterday we said, this is us, and this is our logical extension of our world. My spouse, my children, my parents, my body, my relatives, my friends, my country, my politics, my sociology, my this and that, right? All the agendas of our life that we have created. We do it with a sense of they belong to me. That's what stresses us out, right? When something belongs to us, that's what stresses us out. But when you do it with a sense of being a trustee, it is given to you. And when you have that consciousness that I'm a mere trustee, entrusted with taking care of it, even with kids, it's like it's a partnership. God enters with you to bring forth nature and to nurture it. So if you can help them on their spiritual journey, and in the process, of course, they're doing well, that's the best gift we can give them. But the problem happens when we think they belong to me. Now, you don't stress over somebody not doing well in life. If you're a teacher, somebody fails in your class, then you'll move on with that. But if your own kid fails, then you have a problem. Why? Because you think they belong to me, you have an attachment. That becomes a big deal, and it is an unholy thing. So it is like that boat which can navigate inside the water, but if it has holes in it, then it will drown it. And those holes is nothing but the attachments that we build in our life with people and other things, because we are not able to see it in perspective. We get too hung up in playing that game, and by the time we realize, or if the life passes by. So that trustee mindset is important. Now let's try to understand, why do we get hooked onto the things? Now this is a car. Okay, the car, it could be anything, but it's more of a symbolic of something that could potentially captivate our interest, or pique our interest around it. So somebody might become happy looking at it, right? Somebody sees a car and they say, oh my God, I got the best car. And the other day I met somebody, said, I earned so much from Bitcoin. And then said, then what did you do with that? He said, you know what, I got a Porsche for myself. Said, why? He said, I thought I deserve it. So he was very happy looking at it. Another friend who was sitting there said, what kind of a guy he is, So he was pretty jealous about it, that, my Bitcoin, why didn't I invest in Bitcoin? He did. And now he's roaming around in a Porsche and I'm not. So what happened? He's sad. Same car, looking at the same car, he's sad. And third person, said, whatever, man, car is a car. You just use it to take it from point A to point B. He has no emotion whatsoever looking at that car. So the object is same, three different emotions, right? Similarly, with the palatial house, somebody say, wow, what a house, right? Somebody might be delighted because they own it. Somebody might be sad, when am I going to have it? I never had it. Somebody might be neutral. House is a house. What's the big deal? He's not going to take it along with himself, right? In the next life. And end of the day, you just need to lead a simple life. Same thing with food as well. Somebody says you must try that, this, that, right? So the point here, I think you understood. The object is the same, but different people perceive it differently. Same thing happens in our relations as well. We have certain expectations around it. Somebody would feel some other way, and somebody might be neutral to it because they don't have anything to do with it, right? So the point is, if the object had happiness in it truly, then everybody should have gotten the same happiness to the same extent at the same moment as you did. Because they are not getting it, that means there is something more subtler and deeper which is in play, which we have to understand if we have to crack this formula for happiness and satisfaction that we are trying to desperately extract out of this world. Object doesn't have that. Okay, if it had, then everybody should have gotten that happiness from the same object. Okay, now let's look at some, why do emotions fluctuate? Okay, I'm going to take a break after we discuss. So here's the story of I've spoken about the story in the past, but because somebody asked, I think Michelle, you asked that, why do emotions fluctuate? Hopefully it addresses this question. So I always encourage participants to put in the feedback tracker. If they have any question in mind, I try to bring it in the presentation and blend it with the topic that we are discussing. These are things that prevent us from developing true detachment in this world. So if we go to the fundamentals and go deeper, what causes that? That's where you need to be a little contemplative about these things. The previous slide that I showed you, hope you have come to this conclusion. Objects don't have happiness. It's your own perception of happiness around that object that is creating that fleeting feeling. Okay. Now let's look at this emotion fluctuation aspect of it. So I'm going to have two meters here. One is a grief meter. One is a happiness meter. Okay. Grief meter and happiness meter. So here's a guy. And as the luck would have it, now he has a wife who loves him a lot. So what happens is, and then he has a family, kids, they love him as well. It's a family, right? And then one day he dies. The guy dies. Yesterday we were talking about death, right? So what happens is when the guy dies, wife faints. Immediately faints. The moment she comes to know about it, she faints. Why faints? Because our heart cannot take pain and pleasure beyond a certain point. That is also a mercy of God, right? That he has created us in a way that we cannot take pain and beyond a certain point. Otherwise, think of it, somebody starts beating you up and you can take infinite pain, how miserable that would be. So he makes you faint. That's about it. Even death happens in two steps. First you faint and then you depart because it's painful. So you're not able to take it, then you faint and then you depart. So people who think, they silently passed away when they were sleeping. No, nobody passes away silently. It's painful and then you depart. So anyways, the wife faints. But what happens? The kids, they cry and wail. They don't faint. There's a difference. I hope you're with me. Cool. Then this guy had another neighbor whom he lovingly used to give some flowers. Okay. He's having going on something there in his neighborhood as well. Okay. Now this girl, when she comes to know about it, she cries and sobs that, oh my God, who's going to give me flowers from here on? And then there is a guy who this guy had borrowed money from. So this guy was supposed to give money back to him. So he's upset. He's died. What is going to happen to my money? Okay. Now there's another guy who's watching television, sitting in his room and he's watching television. He comes to know, your neighbor has died. He says, too bad. Doesn't it happen to all the times when we look at Gaza Strip bombing and stuff like that? Oh, hey, this happened, that happened. Yeah, too bad. Do you really feel? Maybe a little bit. Not too much. You'll carry on with your life. So same thing happens to this guy. He said, too bad. And he just shrugs it off and starts watching the TV. Nation wants to know again. Okay. Now, what happens? And then there's another guy. He's very happy. Why? Because this guy owed him money. He said, thank God. I owed him $10,000. I don't have to give him back anymore. So he's very happy. You see that emotions, person has died, situation, different people. If you look at it, happiness meter has also come. Grief meter was increasing. Here now happiness meter has also started. Somebody's actually happy he died. Different emotions with the same person. Now the story is not complete. As the luck would have it, he had a near-death experience. So when they were about to lit him up, he woke up. He said, oh, what happened? So when he woke up, his wife was revived, putting water and told, your husband has actually not died, he's alive. Now on hearing it, she faints again. This time out of ecstasy, okay, ecstasy, yeah, out of delight. Again, she faints. Now what happened to kids? Kids are happy and excited. They don't faint. This time also they don't faint. The girl is also happy. Okay, the flower that I get every day, that's going to resume again. The guy who was upset is now happy. Oh, I'm going to get my money back. Thank God, God is kind. And the guy who was happy is not upset. Oh my God, I have to give money back to him. This guy is still alive. And the guy who's watching the TV is like the same. Okay, good. God is kind. Good job. I mean, thank you, God. You are kind. And again, he goes back to TV. So he was neither, disinterested, dispassionate about this whole thing. The happiness meter has increased, but for some, it has decreased also because now he's alive. So what is going on here? Anybody who wants to tell what's actually going on here? This is how our emotions are. It fluctuates. as well. I mean, in our life also it fluctuates, it goes up, goes down. Sometimes we're feeling good, happy, but there is something subtle that is happening around those things. Yes, Shefali Sharma and Sandhya, Saki Duo, please go ahead.
Yes, Radhe Radhe. Please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe.
Mhm.
Self-interest, the amount of self-interest getting fulfilled versus not. So I think that is directly proportional to the amount of fluctuation that they feel.
True. Keshavji, you wanted to add? Good. I think you guys are going to Jagannath Puri and you're having some brain waves along the way. So good job. Yes, Keshavji.
Radhe Radhe. Keshavji, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe. Nothing is good or bad, just thinking makes it so. Individually affects to themselves.
True. Very true. Very true. Thank you, Keshavji. So let's conclude this discussion. Now, here is happiness, grief is actually a function of our attachment and self-interest. Very simple. It's your self-interest. Okay, you got to understand that aspect. It's your self-interest and attachment that is in at play, which is where, if you look at the more the attachment and self-interest, the more the happiness or grief you're likely to experience from that particular thing. And this self-interest, or which is born out of selfishness, is the cause of misery in this world. And it is one of the most, not most, I would say, it is an unholy thing that we need to gradually weed away or move away from. Where is spiritual technology comes into picture? Why is it important? You won't even know. You would have led your entire life without a GPS, right? In the GPS, if you lose way, you would be directed, as long as the network is working. But in real life, if you don't have a GPS, you don't even know you are selfish. And it's your self-interest that you need to tackle through proper knowledge. Otherwise, you will continue to do a mindless repetition of the same thing with different relations in different walks of life. It's a mindless repetition without understanding and delaying gaining that knowledge. And your mind is making up a very nice excuse. Right now I have this thing to do, that thing to do, I'll do it then, right, in retirement, after I settle my kids, after my current set of responsibilities are taken up. It is actually a thing to implement and enrich your life as you lead your life. Ideally, this knowledge should be imbibed in our growing or formative years. But if we have missed the bus because of whatever reason, the sooner we gain this and employ it in our life, the richer our life becomes, professionally, personally, in general, at all. And if we cannot get rid of that aspect, we can't start working on it systematically, then we are not doing ourselves a huge favor. We'll continue to grapple with these challenges in life where we will become anxious, we'll worry about it, we'll second guess ourselves, we'll have problems. We'll have problems with our family members, at job, and people don't behave adversely with you. It could be a near and dear one, it could be your kid or anything. So unless you have that perspective, it's going to be an ongoing battle. Okay. Not that battle will go away, but your perspective would change. And now you say that you cannot dig a well when your house is on fire. When things are going all right, that is the time to invest in this knowledge so that you can start utilizing it and gaining benefit from it. Not just benefit, but doing yourself a favor. It's like spirituality is what? You're not going anywhere. If you don't learn those lessons now, you will have to learn it tomorrow. If you don't learn it tomorrow, maybe after 10 years, if not 10 years, then next life. Those things are not going away. So if you have tons of homework to do from a spiritual standpoint, the more you do now, the less you have to do later. It's a very logical and a common sense question, right? More you do now, less you have to do later. The worst we can do is we started our life with this much of homework in this particular life and we ended it up with creating more. And that can easily happen if we don't understand the deeper principles governing our lives. Okay, because spiritual laws are spiritual laws. Whether you put your hand knowingly in fire or you do it unknowingly, if a kid does that, fire will do its job. So same way, if we don't have this understanding and if we continue to not work on our mind, or like a spiritual technology is the only technology to cleanse that. If you don't do that, if you don't understand the deeper principles, if you don't make a concerted effort around not only understanding but implementing those principles as a laboratory on a day-to-day life, then the time will pass by and another human life will get frittered away. It's very simple. And the second is this graph. If you look at it, it is inversely proportional to time. It diminishes, happiness also diminishes. Material happiness will diminish over time. You eat a rasgulla, you'll feel great. Second, a little less. Third, a little less. Fourth, a little less. And then finally, say anything but rasgulla. So anything in life that you get, that you think is happiness, will diminish over time. The law of diminishing return, because it is not perfect happiness. And the same thing, good thing is that if that it applies to grief as well. Grief is also something which they say the time is a great healer. Grief also gets filled up with time, unless you keep on thinking, getting into that habit of negative thinking. Grief is something God has given us the resilience to overcome in due course of time. That is how it works. With that, I'll take a quick stop, maybe a couple of questions before I hand it over to Cash for her presentation, because we are going to, so Maharajji's, tomorrow we will, not tomorrow, next session, we'll talk about some more practical ways to develop detachment. Okay, I couldn't cover this topic, but it'll require another session. Any questions so far on what we have discussed before we move on to the Prem Ras Siddhant nuggets from Cash? Go ahead.
Nitinji, very, very interesting topic. And there are a lot of questions and comments in the chat as well.
Okay, maybe we
So-
can couple of them and then.
Yes.
Mhm.
So first of all, Abhaji and Shalini ji also mentioned about the level of attachment about this question. And Aarti ji has asked, is having compassion also leads to attachment?
See, compassion is of two types. One is a material compassion, one is a spiritual compassion. We operate from material compassion, where we take pity. See, you give food to somebody, you give money to somebody, that you are doing a symptomatic cure. When you take pity on somebody, that is called a material compassion. Oh, bichara types. The spiritual compassion is understanding that this soul, the root cause of suffering is the soul actually considering itself to be a body. So that removal of ignorance from the soul, or giving that soul that jump, which is what saints do, that is the highest level of charity. But then for you to operate from that level, you have to be there as well. Typically, we operate out of material compassion only. And that material compassion will at best lead you to sattvic guna, right? But yeah, it can be born out of attachment, or it could be born out of misplaced understanding of considering ourselves as a body. It could be either. But yes, it can be born out of your attachment as well to some relationship, right? Some people, they get charged up when it comes to their own relationships. But when it comes to a neighbor's son or somebody, they are pretty neutral, equanimous to that. Why do they get worked up? Because they have an attachment. Very simple. They have some self-interest. They envision certain things. They expect certain things. When they are not met, they never signed a contract in life with you that this is what we will end up achieving for you. What's the basis for that, right? So yes, it's our self-interest and attachment which leads to those kind of emotions.
Yeah, thank you, Nitinji. I'll take Abhaji. Radhe Radhe, Abhaji.
Radhe Radhe Abhaji.
Please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe. So in the same context of compassion, when someone tells you a situation, do you empathize or do you sympathize? Because people, I almost say misery loves company, right? So at that point, when someone tells you a situation, do you just listen and respond if they want to respond and then move on without a neutral?
I get that. It's a bit contextual in the sense that you take a call. If somebody is just using you as a dumping ground, some people, they just want to dump it. That's all. Yeah, they just need a crying shoulder. Is it truly, now you have to take a call. Is it truly helping them? Or if you're their true friend, you would challenge their behavior. Not behavior, but give them some food for thought. Rather than them crying, and if you, let's say somebody comes, you know what, this person did so wrong to me, and then playing that victim card, and you say, yeah, you keep on saying, are you truly helping them? Rather than telling them, you know what, you can't have a game plan where you are handing over the keys to your happiness to people around. Why don't you take control over it? That might be a good advice around it. But somebody, at times, there's somebody genuinely needs that. In that case, you could be empathetic. So you calibrate it based on the kind of relationship you have, personal rapport you have, and knowing the kind of person you are dealing with. So it's a nuanced response to that. There's no right or wrong answer. But as a good friend, you would always think about how can I genuinely help them where they can evolve. They can focus on their inner growth as opposed to you giving them a patchwork or just saying yes to whatever yes they are saying. And then you may be promoting a bad habit where those people, rather than taking control or working on themselves, are simply looking for people to dump their stuff. Everybody loves a crying shoulder or shoulder to lean on. So you take a calibrated response around it based on who you are dealing with and what kind of personality it is.
Yeah, that's a very good answer, Nitinji.
Mhm.
Ajit ji has asked one question. He has asked, my query is that nowadays there's a trend among girls and boys in India for getting married at late age, beyond 30 or so. Next is wishing not to get married at the same time, not being spiritual. What is your comments in view of advice to teenagers?
Not getting married is not being spiritual, you said?
Yeah, not getting married either, or not even wishing to get, not at all being spiritual.
So you're neither here nor there. See, it's a pretty interesting discussion, and I'm sure it'll have a discussion of its own, but brief answer because we have a presentation coming up as well. See, marriage is an institution, right? And marriage is also is kind of a, I won't say insurance policy, but kind of an institution that if you are in doubt, do marry because you are in doubt. At least it gives you an additional responsibility. You're not roaming around thinking about your own self. When you marry, then now you have another person to think about. So automatically you're expanding your bubble. Then you have kids. You have to now you first you are the center of the universe, you think. Then somebody else will come and say, hey, okay, you alone are not the center of the universe. You both, and then you both become the center of the universe. And then the kids come along. They tell you, no, you both are not. We are. So you are forced to expand your bubble and you are forced to take on responsibility. So in that way, it is a good thing, good drill or grind to go through. Having said that, it is not a prerequisite. If you are solid about, very clear about your goal in life, you need to add another set of what you call hook that can wear you down. But for that, you have to be really sorted out that this is what I want to do. And of course, you cannot take that decision in vacuum or in isolation. It has to be in consultation with your spiritual master, whoever it might be. Right? They can guide you. They would know, do you have enough detachment or enough resilience to take on life in this path or not, and they can guide you. It is not something you take a call on your own. But I would say that is not a prerequisite, for you to progress in life. And that may not be a bad game plan at all, especially if you're ready for it, right? Then you can focus solely on that. But it's a very deep discussion. Maybe for some other session, a lot of people will be interested in it. I already see some smiles here. Yeah. So yes, maybe last one, and then we.
Yeah. Do we have time for one more question,
One
Nitin?
quick one.
Yes. Pooja ji has asked, how do we detach from job or any other materialistic thing when you are workaholic person? And in spite of knowing that these things are temporary, you are not able to control your attitude of being a workaholic.
Yeah, I get that part. Workaholic is like you acquired that thing, right? You acquired that thing. Now the question is, you don't need to change anything. You change the that part of it. Why are you workaholic? Why are you working hard? Are you doing it for your own fame, prestige, to satisfy your ego, or you envision yourself becoming a CXO or CFO or CEO as of a certain age? What are you catering, or are you, your goal of life is to increase the wealth of the shareholders and your company? Is that a great achievement in life? I think when you start subscribing to the deeper questions in life, it will put your quest in perspective. What are you going to achieve out of it? You may have a high flying career, so what? Big deal. What did you achieve? Your report card may not have anything to show for. So when you start seeking the deeper questions in life, it will start putting things in perspective. Even if you are workaholic, continue to do that. Purify the intention behind it. I want to earn more so that I can give more. I want to hone my skills so that I can do, offer some service back to God using those skills. I will make it a point to purify my wealth by, giving 10% regardless. So if you start imbibing, adding those things, even your, the enthusiasm for your work, which might be a little over the board, will start putting in perspective and things will start falling in place. So you start adding that. You add God into the mix. Okay, sooner than later, everything else will start aligning around it. Okay, let's move on to the presentation now. I'm going to stop share. Over to you, Cash. For the nuggets you wanted to present from PRS. So all yours.
Yeah, Radhe Radhe, Cash ji, I have made you co-host.
Thank you. I'm going to share my screen. Let me know if you can see it.
Mm-hmm.
We can see your screen, but we see you in the screen.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yes.
Have you shared something?
Hang on. I'll try again.
Yeah, now I think something is
Yeah,
coming.
now
Great.
we can see.
Now we can see.
Do you see it in presentation mode?
Yes.
No.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, we can see that.
Hang on, give me 1 second. All right. Radhe Radhe, everyone. And Nitinji, thank you for this opportunity to allow me to share a few insights from the Prem Ras Siddhant Philosophy of Divine Love by Sri Kripaluji Maharaj. So by a stroke of very good fortune, this book came into my life a month ago, only by the grace of God and Guru. And if I had to tell you in a nutshell, the gist of this book is every human being is engaged in the pursuit of happiness. But what is that happiness really, and how can we attain it? Also, to note, it is intended towards any reader interested in this. It's written with the assumption that right now you may or may not have a guru, but you can still start adopting some of these teachings until your guru comes along. So I'll start with a disclaimer. This is not a book summary. More than anything else, these are my takeaways based on my current level of understanding. And these are realizations about some pointers that I need to adopt at this time to help me continue my journey on this path. So this book has a lot of layers I found, and I've just uncovered the surface of it, I think. So I imagine it must be something like digging the earth layer by layer, right? You keep finding other things underneath. So I think if I keep going, then eventually I'll get to the level of God. So that's just so fun. All right, let's dig in. So takeaway number 1, let's start with the big picture, the ultimate goal of all living beings. So that's one of the chapters Maharaji talks about. So unless you're an intentional wanderer, aimless, it's pointless being on a journey unless we're clear about where we're trying to go. We need to know what's our destination. So he says in unequivocal terms, your ultimate goal is the attainment of divine love of Sri Krishna and his eternal service. Now, how do you get to that? He gets granular about it. So he says, this divine love can be attained only through the grace of your guru. Now, how do you get that? The grace of your guru will be attained upon complete purification of your heart. And how do you do that? He says, the purification of the heart is only possible through devotional practice as instructed by a guru. So this kind of reminded me of Arjun from the Mahabharata, right? When he and his brothers and cousins were under the tutelage of Dronacharya, and he was teaching them the art of archery. He had them line up. He had a bird up in the tree as a target, and he had them take aim. And to each of them, he asked the same question: what do you see? And everyone except for Arjun talked about how they saw the tree and the branches and everything else. And Arjun was the only one that said, all I see is the eye of the bird. And he was the only one that got to take his shot. So this makes me think of my first takeaway. In this world full of innumerable distractions, I have to unwaveringly work towards keeping my eyes on the ultimate prize. So all possible efforts and energy must be channeled towards this goal. That was takeaway 1. So moving on. Next, Maharaji talks about kusang. So he says, the world has 2 categories. There's a divine or a satya aspect, and only God and his saints are part of that. And then he says the other area is the material, the asatya aspect. And this we know is engulfed in Maya. So he says anyone and anything other than God and his saints belongs to this aspect. And therefore he says, whatever leads to the attachment of the mind and intellect to the divine is satsang. And apart from this, everything else is kusang or wrong association. So that kind of brought a picture of a diya to my mind. So if you light an oil lamp, right? If you leave it exposed to the wind and elements on the outside, it's only a matter of time before it gets snuffed out. So the first thing you want to do is bring it inside where it's protected. So that brings me to my takeaway number 2. As a novice seeker on this path, especially in the beginning stages, I must first protect my nascent flame of devotion and mindfully avoid kusang. So this will help me grow and nurture the flame by nourishing it with satsang. And he goes on to talk about what constitutes kusang. That's for another day. But one of the main things he talks about is avoiding fault finding, guilty as charged. But that's something, I guess, is part of the stuff we all work on. So interestingly, this chapter is the last chapter of this book. But to me, I think it needs to be foremost as a newbie on this path, and something to be very mindful about. So moving right along, takeaway number 3 is to do with surrender. And I have to say, Nitinji covers a lot of this ground in the Bhagavad Gita sessions, but this was good revision and reinforcement. So Maharaji gives examples from various scriptures, the Vedas, Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, Ramayana, and all of the shlokas of the verses he quotes, they all have the same call to action. They say, paraphrased, surrender to God in order to receive his grace, by which to attain his divine abode and everlasting peace. So he goes on to say what it is not. He says it's not a worldly transaction of give and take. It doesn't work when you say, you take my surrender and give me your divine abode. It doesn't work like that. Also, he says we possess a body, we possess senses and the mind. So surrendering the body to God while your mind and senses are entangled somewhere else, that will not earn his grace. He says, if you control your body and your senses, but your mind is still occupied with worldly thoughts, that will not earn grace either. So he says, surrender of the mind alone is true surrender to God, no matter what the physical actions may be. Now that got me thinking of this story of this Buddhist Zen monk, right, who used to be sitting in peace most of his time, and caught the attention of a young guy who went to him and used to keep pestering him, tell me your secret, tell me how you managed to remain in peaceful meditation for so long. Until one day the monk gave in and he said, come here, I'll tell you my secret. So he gave him the mantra and he said, here it is, chant it all day long, but no matter what you do, don't think of monkeys. He said, don't think of monkeys. So maybe we should do a raise hands if you thought of monkeys when I said that, because what the story tries to tell you is the mind is so uncontrollable. The moment you tell yourself, don't think of something, be sure you'll think of it. So all that to say, in life we find sometimes the hardest thing gives the biggest reward. It is so difficult to, control the mind. Surrender of the mind is not going to be easy, but putting these philosophies into practice, I think, will get me there one step at a time. So moving on. Then there's a whole entire chapter on Karma Yoga, practical sadhana, which we've spent many days on. So again, nothing new, but very, very good to soak this in even more. So he says, it is the nature of the mind to love. If this love is directed to God, then both your material duties and your spiritual goal can be pursued simultaneously. So the practical form of Karma Yoga is to fulfill your duties in the world and lovingly attach your mind to God. So he's given the example of learning how to ride a bike. If you consider everything other than the bike is God, and the bike is a material world. When you're learning to ride a bike, yesterday we heard gravity sucks. So all our mind and attention is going to be on the bike to avoid busted knees and broken teeth. But as you keep practicing, your mind is automatically getting away from the bike because you're just doing it, going with the flow. And then more and more, you're starting to enjoy the scenery around you, God, in our example. Until one day you're just biking and you have your hands off and you're totally focused on where you're looking. So he talks about how the mind is material, but where you're trying to go, God is divine. So then how do you make this leap? He talks about 4 principles. He says, seeing divinity in the divine gives a divine result. So an example here would be, famous personalities like King Janak or Prahlad, who actually saw and recognized the divine in his dissension. The next principle is loving the divine without awareness of his divinity, also gives the divine result. So an example here would be gopis. Some gopis did not recognize Krishna to be the supreme Godhead, but loved him in a divine aspect anyway, with a divine result. The next principle is loving material things with a divine sentiment gives a divine result. So in this case, it could be something like a picture of a god or an idol of a god that is made of material elements. but you look at it in a divine sentiment. And lastly, he says, loving worldly things with a lovely worldly sentiment gives a material result. So the question really is, if you want a divine result, do you have to know whether that thing is divine or material? Or what if you don't know whether it's divine or material? So when you really look at this, there is a common theme underlying all of these 4 principles. And that commonality is that it doesn't matter what that thing is, it's the sentiment by which you're looking at it or loving it. That's what matters. If your sentiment is divine, you're going to get a divine result, no matter what that thing is, whether it's material or divine. So I draw a corollary from it, right? If I can practice seeing and loving everything and everyone with a sentiment of divinity, then I'm assured of a divine result. So that was takeaway 4. And this is the last takeaway for today. He talks about practical requirements for sadhana. So he says, the most important and indispensable requirements for practical sadhana are nishkamta, or the abandonment of selfish desires. So that is the removing the I. So, people used to ask me what I do for a living. I used to tell them I'm an IT professional, but now I've removed the I tell them now I'm a tea professional, which is not far from the truth because I do drink a lot of chai. And actually that got me thinking of yesterday's whole discussion about, I think in this class, we have 2 camps, one chai loving and one that frowns upon the chai. And I think this phenomenon, I want to term duality. The next one is ananyata, or undivided or exclusive devotion. So he talks about how, although the mind gets bored with just one thing, I think there's so much variety in the divine realm. So if you think of, Krishna's Leelas being Netflix shows, there's comedy, there's drama, there's tragedy. So we have a lot to pick from in those terms. Next, he talks about Rup Dhyan, which he says meditation on the personal form of God is a very important aspect of it. And he says not to forget to carry this on with you. You're meditating on the form of Krishna in your Rup Dhyan, but don't stop doing that just as you finish doing your Rup Dhyan. So when I finish, now when I get in my car to go to work, I look over at the passenger seat and make sure Krishna has put on his seatbelt. So my takeaway number 5 is just made up an acronym, NARI. So it's Nishkamta, Ananyata, Dhyan, incrementally. All of this is a lot in one shot, but if you keep doing this, it adds up incrementally until it leads you where you want to go. I want to leave you with this last sentence of the book, which is a very comforting and inspiring sentence that Maharaji has left us with. He says, once you meet a true master, everything will fall into place. I think all of us here are so blessed and fortunate that we have one. I think it just takes the doing or practicing of these principles. And that's the essence of what we're learning here anyway. Do what's in our hands, do our efforts, and leave the rest, everything will fall into place. So that was it from me for today. Thank you for your patience and attention. And thanks, Nitinji. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe Cash, that was quite a captivating and power-packed with a lot of punch. It's not easy to give a synopsis of this profound book, but you delivered the punch in a very, very structured manner. I loved it. And those small improvisations starting with lava for God, and that you have transformed from an IT professional, you have taken the I out of it, and now you're just a tea professional and leaving us with a beautiful acronym, NARI. Loved every bit of it. Okay, so I think those improvisations, the subtle humor, it was not lost on us. And more importantly, I think you packed a punch with the message, the key learnings. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'll open it up. I'm sure people have a lot of things to say about it, the presentation, and they may have some questions as well. I thought Reshma ji, so let's take Reshma ji and then our Sakhi duo Monica ji for other comments. But fantastic presentation. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Let's open it up for the participants now. Yes, Reshma ji, you there? Or Sakhi duo, you can get started if she's not there. Let's unmute Reshma ji if she's there as well.
Oh, yes, I see Reshma ji. Okay. Reshma ji, I'm unmuting you. Please go ahead.
Resham ji rather.
Resham.
Resham ji, and then we have Sakhi duo and Monica ji will take them as well. Yes, Resham ji, please go ahead. Welcome
Please
to the
go ahead.
Good to see you. We can't hear you.
I just unmuted myself.
Now you're good.
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Yes.
I can hear you. Please go ahead.
Okay. So, Nitinji, there's just one thing, like since I'm new to this whole thing, and yes, at certain points, as I would also say, I'm a newbie to it. So at certain points, of course, the distraction was there. I wouldn't, if I'll not be lying. But then there are certain points when you started, it took my interest in, and I started listening to it. And the only thing I feel is maybe I have not adapted to your way of speaking, the pace that you maintain. So it's just a request that if you can go a little slower so
Sure.
that things can be retained.
It will go
Or
extremely
maybe,
slow.
with the course of time, I'll develop that.
No. It's not as fast
apt.
as every session. Today we had unusually more content to cover, plus we had
Okay.
a presentation. But if you say you will probably have a complaint that you go very slow, can you be a little fast? Okay, it may be the other way around. But yeah, pleasure to have you on this session. We'll make sure
Mm,
that you grasp every concept. The idea is
yeah.
not to, challenge you to jump onto a fast moving train, but to pace it out easily so that you grasp each and every concept around it. But yeah, it's good to know that. But yeah, today I know it was a little paced because we had a lot of stuff to cover, but usually we go at a very, very slow pace. So if you keep joining in, you'll say, you know what, it's perfect. The pace is just perfect for me. I can assure you that.
Yeah, so it's not a complaint, just a request. Maybe it's my first time, and since you say that, it was a little paced up, so
No worries.
that's
Yeah,
okay.
it was a little paced today, but yes, fair point. Thank you very much.
Thank
Please
you.
keep coming in, and then if you still feel it is paced,
I
do
will.
let me know.
I will. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Radhe Radhe. Yes,
Radhe Radhe.
Sakhi, do
Kashji,
go ahead.
yeah, Kashji, there are like a lot of applauds pouring in for you. And what a fantastic, impressive presentation. Awesome. With lot of clarity in the key takeaways. That is fantastic. And people have requested for sharing your presentation also, if it is possible.
Sure.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
thank
that should
you.
be.
Yeah, I'll
Yes.
take Shefali ji and Sandhya ji.
Please go
Jai
ahead.
Shri Jagannath, please go
Jai
ahead.
Shri Jagannath.
Jai Shri Jagannath, Radhe Radhe. Amazing presentation. I mean, first of all, kudos to you, Kashji, for completing reading
The
Prem
book.
Ras Siddhant. That's such a big deal, right? And then presenting it so concisely in a very structured manner. I just loved it entirely. Specifically, like those specific nuggets that were coming out of every takeaway. So it was like for us getting the extract of it in such a beautiful manner. So that's a blessing. So thank you. And one question.
Yeah, go ahead. So, Cash, you are to start taking questions as well. Please go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. So the question is, a divine object, but you are having a material intent. I think earlier in the class that has been covered, but today in the presentation was not there. So I have to check. The result will still be divine, right?
That's right. If it's a divine object, the result is material. Like it happened to Shrupnakha. Okay, I'll steal your thunder, Cash, so I can do that. Like in case of Shrupnakha, she approached Lord Ram, who's divine, with a material desire. So in that particular avatar, she got her, now nose chopped up. But in next life, he obliged her by making her his own wife in form of Kubja. So yes, one of the variable has to be divine, and the result will end up being divine. Good question. Yes, Monica
Yes.
ji, thank you very much, and thank you for joining. I know you guys are traveling, but that's quite a commitment, I must say that. So thank you for joining. Yes, Monica ji.
Radhe Radhe. Monica ji, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe. Should I call you Cash Ji or Dost? Wonderful presentation. I mean, Nitin ji and Sandhya and Shefali already said that. You got me at, I check on Krishna to see if he's fastened a seatbelt. And that's exactly like what we Sakhis do, right? So I absolutely loved it. I imagine it's a picturized you actually doing it. So loved it. Thank you. Thank you for this.
Wonderful. I see Arnima has raised her hand as well. Go ahead, Arnima.
Anima ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe. I just want to say that, Cash, I loved your presentation and, seeing your journey. This book has changed the life of many, many devotees just reading this book. And I don't know, I'm just so happy to see your presentation and that you have, read this book and presented it so, so well. So thank you so much. I loved it.
Thank you. Yes, it's a fantastic effort, must say that. But it's just the beginning, right? I think this is the first pass of this book which Cash has come up with. But as you see, she'll have more findings and stuff from this book that we can periodically plan for. And I think it'll be a wonderful addition. So we'll have a Cash segment, right? Cash up with Catch, something like that, that we can carve out where we talk about Prem Ras Siddhant. But this was fantastic. Okay, a lot of accolades are flowing in. Covering it is one, but within the time that you had and the magnitude of the content that we have in that entire book, I think that was a pretty phenomenal effort. So thank you very much for that. Yeah, Rahul, you wanted to add something?
Radhe Radhe, Rahul ji, please go ahead.
Yeah, Radhe Radhe. Just wanted to add, Radhe Radhe, Govind Radhe, प्रेम रस सिद्धांत के मोती टी प्रोफेशनल से ही चुनवा दे. Radhe Radhe.
There you go. Now your fate is sealed, okay? And Rahul says that's what happens. Wonderful, Rahul. Thank you so much. Yes, Shamji, no discussion is complete without your word on this. Go ahead.
Radhe Radhe, Shyam ji, please go ahead.
Yes, Radhe Radhe. I do not know what to say because Kaji, I just saw her coming very recently, and the way she has jumped all of us, especially me, it's really commendable. And I just thought कि मैं आया हूँ, but इसमें तो ऐसे बैठे महारथी जो I don't know from where they get all these ज्ञान and time and grace. They're really applaudable, and I now think that I'm way behind, and I need to also pull up my socks and just catch them up. It's really true that people are really so fast this group and in this journey of their life. I really wish them well, and maybe one day I'll catch up with them. Radhe Radhe.
We have a lot of cash up to do with Cash for sure. But yeah, it's good to be amongst all the inspired participants. And I think all of us are on a journey. And I would encourage other participants to come forward as well. Like we had a wonderful presentation. All of you, if you have something to present, it will inspire others, right? If anything that touches your heart, you can resonate with, you have benefited from, put it in the feedback track, and I'll be more than happy. You can come here and we can, you can come and present here for 5 to 10 minutes. It's very inspiring. And I'm sure something would have touched your heart, right, over the course of the last 3 years or anything. So I'd encourage all of you to come forward. Okay, so with that said, anything else? Any questions on I know we covered a lot of stuff, including Prem Ras Siddhant. Today was very knowledge power-packed session.
It was a very power-packed session, Nitinji, and especially for Kashji. There's so many praises pouring in. Kashji, hopefully you're looking at the chat. There's a lot of warm, wonderful messages for you. And we hope to see more from you next time as well.
Yeah,
it's very inspiring. Yeah.
I think now I feel encouraged to take a sabbatical if I can, because somebody can fill in very easily, but much better than that. So if you're enjoying the slides these days, you know where they are coming in from. Okay. So good job, Cash, once again. Anybody else who wants to say anything or ask anything?
I just want to remind everyone that I have shared feedback tracker. Please go ahead and put your comments, feedback in the feedback tracker.
Yeah, please do fill out the feedback tracker. And if you have any questions, please do. Yes, Sakhi, go ahead. And then Surinder ji is also there today. Go ahead, Sandhya. And
please go ahead, Sandhya.
Just wanted to add this. Thank God internet supported us today and we did not miss out on this session. Yeah. So yes, just wanted to say that.
God is kind for sure. He didn't want you to miss out on a masterpiece today. Wonderful. Surinder ji, please go ahead.
Please go ahead, Surinder ji. Radhe Radhe. Please go ahead.
Surendra ji,
Radhe Radhe.
today in the presentation, your name came again. Okay, the principal surrender again. Please go ahead.
That is what encouraged me to put my hands up.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Nitin ji, all said and done, this is the best CIC class which I miss a lot of times, but then whenever I join, I get a lot of it. Thank you very much. Always, Radhe Radhe.
Thank you, Surendra. Thanks for your kind and generous word. I think we owe a lot of gratitude to Swamiji for giving us this platform, Maharajji's grace for giving us this wonderful knowledge that we are able to talk with each other with no loose ends, right? How empowering, how beautiful, how clear this knowledge is. It gives me goosebumps sometimes, to know that we have access to it in such a palatable manner. It is not an easy thing. You go out on internet, you go on philosophies, whole life you can spend and it'll still be a wild goose chase. But here, everything is served to us. So thank you, Surendra ji, for your kind words. And we
One thing I always like today's topic was that we are the trustee of the next generation.
True.
That is the assertion today's topic has done. I have always believed in that.
Yes, that's true. Thank you, Surendra ji, and it's always a pleasure to hear you. And
Radhe
please
Radhe.
keep coming in and please keep blessing us. Okay, we'd love to see you
So
as
nice
well.
of you. So nice of you. Radhe Radhe.
On the
Prabhu.
camera as well, we would love to see you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes,
Bye-bye.
Resham ji, please go ahead. Thank you, Surendra ji, for turning on your camera. My father would love to see you as well. Okay, he always keeps talking about you. So thank you very much. Yes, Resham ji.
Please go ahead, Resham ji. Radhe Radhe.
Thank you, Radhe Radhe. Nitin ji, sorry, I could have asked this question earlier when I was actually asking you.
Yeah, please. What happened? We lost your audio, Resham ji.
Just a second. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, Resham ji, we can hear you.
So, Nitin ji, I realized when you were talking about that, one would one would attain that renunciation by living in this world and not renunciating and becoming a sage or a sadhu.
Mhm.
Okay, so my question is that now here, considering this detachment part, so living in a family life, and you start observing that detachment, you start following the path of that detachment. And when you say that, you don't have to go out and, um, uh, condemn and give up on all the things, on the worldly things. And then, so living in a family life, isn't, I know it, isn't it possible that the time you feel that, you got to follow the detachment thing, now the catch is not everyone living with you would feel the same. So all of a sudden, they would feel that, overnight what has happened, and acceptance would be a problem with everyone. So my question is how to then, take it ahead, how to put it in a process so that everybody, things would, considering the dynamics around, things would fall
Understood.
in place. Yeah.
Understood the question. It is a very normal question. The moment you start, going a little deeper in spirituality and stuff like that, the biggest mistake people do is they start wearing their spirituality on their sleeves. Okay?
Okay.
So spirituality says, Man Bhagavan mein, mind in God, buddhi in the world. You need to use your intellect in the world. That doesn't mean you start announcing to the world, okay, now I've understood the true nature of this world. I know everybody's selfish. I know my real goal is God, and to hell with you. No, you don't do that. You still operate. You be smart about how to navigate the situations, right? If you are living with somebody who's opposed to it, set some boundaries, have a give and take so that you get time for your stuff. So you got to be smart. And it's an internal matter. See, if you are, let's say you're doing some work, and inside you are doing chanting Hare Rama, Hare Krishna or Radhe Radhe, can they come to know about it? Nobody has access to your privacy. So it's an internal matter. Where your mind is, you have absolute control over it. World demands your work, not your mind. Always keep that in mind. The world around you will only demand the work that they want from you. They don't demand your mind. They have no way to know where your mind is. So mind is
Wow.
God, buddhi in world. That is essentially what Karam Yoga is. We have beaten this topic to death over the last 1 week. So, but since you only started joining, feel free to have all these questions, and I'm more than happy to have an offline conversation with you on questions that you think are foundational and you would need a little more understanding. But if you keep coming to these sessions, rest assured or be rest assured that we will keep covering these topics to an extent that all the foundational elements are covered so much that it becomes a second nature for you. But please fill out the feedback tracker. I'll be very happy
I'll
to
do
have
that.
a conversation with you and take on any of the fundamental questions
Yeah.
that you may have around to this.
No, that's really relieving because then my mind would not be satisfied and kept on,
Agreed.
searching for answers.
Agreed.
So
I'm happy
yeah,
to have an offline conversation with you. If you have a
sure.
lot of question, I do that with a lot of participants, especially who join in late, and then they need to revisit some of the fundamental questions around this topic. So more than happy to interact with you on that.
Thank you so much, Nitinji. Radhe,
No worries.
Radhe.
My pleasure.
Yeah. Thank you.
No worries. And thank you again. A privilege to have you in this sessions.
Yeah,
Shyam,
yeah.
go ahead.
Radhe Radhe Shyamji, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe, Shyam.
राधे राधे once again a request from Kaji जो सब लोग ऐसी किताबें पढ़ लेते हैं. I have been buying these books for a long time now, but it's all stuck in my book rack, as you can see behind me. So how do Cash and people like them have some time and then contemplate and then do such things for us and come to it? If you can share some nugget, or how do you have so much time with you? I'm sure you're also working somewhere or the other, and still being so busy in the world as we are all doing this class for last 1 week. Man Bhagwan mein or tan buddhi, tan material things mein. So I am still stuck in this material world, though at times my man goes here and there, but it's really commendable that you have some time to read such books and then you have all those things to contemplate and then give those nuggets to us through this PPT. It's really commendable, Cash. If you can share your thoughts, how do you have such time and do those things?
Cash, you've been reading this book for last 10, 12, 15. Can you tell the time duration for how long you've been reading this book for? To put
1
things-
month to 1 day.
1 month.
Well, first of all, all of you are very kind. Thank you. But none of this is possible without grace. We've been learning all along, and I can tell you that even until a few months ago, this was not in my awareness, this book or a lot of these teachings. I just feel very incredibly blessed. I'm just following it one step at a time. I'm taking myself where it's leading me. I'm being open to these experiences, and I'm following the chain of grace that's coming. As far as how I get the time for this, when I was younger, I never liked to study. I never sat with the books. I was into sports and other things. So I think all that prarabdha is coming now. I'm feeling like I need to study and take notes and think about all of this stuff. In my work as a tea professional, I do work on decks, and I assimilate and organize content as part of what I do. So this is kind of a natural inclination for me. I think that is another thing that is a driver. When I'm reading, I'm naturally just making notes and taking what is the essence of everything that's said in the book. And thank you to all of you for being so receptive. And I'm more than happy to keep bringing these things. In fact, this book is so incredible. I wouldn't mind doing even a chapter by chapter, dissection of each of these things if you want to do it that way. So thank you again. You all are just too kind, and I'm too blessed.
And on a lighter note, how do you draw grace? I've been in the book for so long there, but it's
So
hard
you
to get
draw-
it. Find it.
I will tell you how you go to
I
a
take a pen in my hand.
Yeah, and draw
I
it.
start with the letter G. No, so this is one of the biggest learnings I've had in the last few months. In fact, Nitin, you had said once, go from understanding to understanding, not from doubt to doubt. Even Swamiji in one of his videos, he said, take what little grace you have, but make use of that, and that will draw more grace. So I think it's like making a financial investment, right? you keep putting in what you have and it compounds over time. And I'm experiencing this in real time. So I don't know what else to tell you. Take what you have and build on it. More welcome.
I think that's a great reflection. I must say that. And in fact, I love those little anecdotes that you put in each slide, because that is born out of your own realization. So it's not just theoretical stuff when we are able to put those analogies around it. But like she said so beautifully, that you say, God, that I need more grace. So God will say, okay, first tell me what have you done with the grace that I've given you, right? So we use it and we get draw more grace out of it. But like you said, I think it might be a good idea to carve out a segment for Premras Siddhant as a standing segment going forward. Maybe we can fix a day of the week, because this is a crown jewel of Maharajji's creation. So I think, Ash, given the response that you have received, I think it might be a good idea to have a segment specifically for this, where we can go chapter by chapter and we can carve out a time of the week where we have a special segment. We'll name it appropriately, and then go with that. I think it's a great idea. I mean, I'm sure everybody would love it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm
And
happy
yes,
to do it
that's
because the pleasure is
fantastic.
mine. Trust me.
Yeah, and we are anyway looking at enriching our session, through different segments that we keep on adding from time to time, like Soul Soup. And now this might be a great addition for you to have your own window and present the Prem Ras Siddhant very systematically. It is going to be mind-blowing knowledge for all of us. So your commitment is locked for that as well. Like Rahul said, I think it was meant to happen that way. Awesome. Congratulations. Okay, you got your own segment. We'll plan it out. Yes, Monica ji, please go ahead.
Please go ahead.
Radhe, Radhe. So Shamji, G for grace, G for giving. And I know that Cash will not like me saying this, but she's a giver. In Banara also, Shruti and Priyanka, there are two devotees who don't understand Hindi, but the whole session was in Hindi. So all the Ramayana important points, right? She was actually jotting it down for them without even them asking her. And that's not just that. When we used to work together, I think almost 3-4 years back, when Corona had just hit, right? So she's very high on integrity also, and also on environment. So she actually stitched masks and got it for almost everybody she knew on the floor. So I think she tries and give out whatever she can and whatever she knows. So basically, I'm coming back to, if we have this knowledge and we feel so blessed with this, I think it not just becomes our moral responsibility, but then also giving attitude makes us go out and talk to people and tell them, this is there, sort yourself out. So I think this is what she's doing. Radhe, Radhe.
Thank you, Monica ji, for letting us know. We came to know a few more things. And Cash, hope you are all set to take on this session. We'll plan out the logistics around it. So it'll be a wonderful start, right? It's a great opportunity to go through Prem Ras Siddhant. And then as a group, we can definitely take benefit from it as well. So here you go. Another reason for you to join the classes and bring in your friends, right? We're going to discuss Prem Ras Siddhant as well. First time somebody would be attempting that book in a graphical manner. So Minuji, kaisa lag raha hai aapko? How are you? Must be feeling very proud today. What the youngsters are doing, right?
Yes, amazing.
Medium-sized youngsters are doing. Yeah, please.
Yes, amazing, outstanding. I feel, either I thought, she met Maharaji or her parents are devotees, I just cannot believe this, she's saying in a month. And grace, yes, grace, but she's not even met Maharaji, and the parents are also not devotees. This is something, something to do with previous life, previous sanskars or previous life, destiny, I don't know. It's amazing, amazing, amazing. In a net, it's not easy to understand the book. I have read it so many times, and still, it was long time back, and it's not easy to understand the Tattva Gyan. And she being, she's new to the class only, and she understands the philosophy.
Did you say in a nut, cashew nut or nut shell? What did you mean? I know it's not easy, but yeah,
Yeah.
so this is the advantage. Now we have a team who can not only go through this Tattva Gyan, but can do the dhyan and present it in a very graphical, systematic, easy to understand manner for the benefit of all of us. So
yeah,
you must be very happy, Minuji, today, because that was your
very, very, very happy. And congratulations. And amazing session, and you all are doing great, and there is no way I miss this, session. And I tell everybody to join it. And I'm going to spread it on the Facebook also to make sure
Please
everybody
do.
joins.
Please do.
Yes,
It's a
I will.
one-stop shop for Maharajji's philosophy and a lot of other things as well. So thank you,
Yes.
Meenaji, for all your
Yes.
blessings. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else for anything? Do we want to do a couple of chantings as a dessert typically that we do before we wrap up our session? Because tomorrow is quiz. So today we have an opportunity to recite a few things if you want to. Or shall I put people on spot for that? Maybe 2 or 3 chantings we can have, and then we'll wrap up the session. I know it's getting a little late, but 5 minutes we can afford. I mean, who wants to sing? You want to do Sakhi Duo? Okay, you're thinking. Monica ji, you want to do? Pallavi ji will do. Meenu ji, Pallavi ji.
Yes, I can say.
Michelle, you want to sing? Rahul, you want to sing? Okay, I see a couple of hands. Go ahead. Let's start with Sakhi Duo.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe Govind Govind Radhe 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 Govind Govind Radhe Radhe Govind Govind Radhe 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 Govind Govind Radhe 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 Govind Govind Radhe Radhe Govind Govind Radhe 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 Govind Govind Radhe 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 Govind Govind Radhe.
Awesome job, both of you. You have braved your bus journey, you have braved internet and everything, and showed up on the session and sang as well. So outstanding job. You both are our inspiration. Go ahead, Rahul. Couple of lines I'll also do, 4, and then we'll wrap up. Yes, go ahead, Rahul.
Yes, Radhe Radhe. Go ahead, Rahul ji. I think I'm also trying to unmute you. Okay, please go ahead.
Yeah,
Yes,
Radhe
Rahul.
Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
श्यामा श्याम नाम रूप लीला गुण धामा गाओ रो के रूप ध्यान युक्त आठों यामा श्यामा श्याम नाम रूप लीला गुण धामा गाओ रो के रूप ध्यान युक्त आठों यामा. राधे राधे.
Very nice, Rahul. Thank you very much. Beautifully sung. Yes, Pallavi ji, go ahead.
I'll also sing 4 lines. मेरी झोपड़ी के भाग आज खुल जाएंगे, राम आएंगे. मेरी झोपड़ी के भाग आज खुल जाएंगे, राम आएंगे. राम आएंगे आएंगे राम आएंगे. राम आएंगे आएंगे राम आएंगे. मेरी झोपड़ी के भाग आज खुल जाएंगे, राम आएंगे. राम आएंगे तो अंगना सजाऊंगी, दीप जला के दिवाली मैं मनाऊंगी. मेरे जन्मों के सारे पाप मिट जाएंगे, राम आएंगे. राम आएंगे आएंगे राम आएंगे, मेरी झोपड़ी के भागात खुल जाएंगे, राम आएंगे। राम सिया जय जय राम, राम राम सिया राम जय जय राम, राम राम सिया राम जय जय राम, राम राम सिया राम जय जय राम।
Beautiful. Pallaviji, very, very nice. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank
It's Lord Ram's year anyways, so thank you. Very beautifully sung. So after your bhajan, I don't feel like singing. Like we have gotten the desert again, we can't go back to main course. Okay, so Lakshmiji, you want to do something? Okay, let me sing a couple of lines. Still,
Yes.
I'll take my
Yes.
chances. Okay. So today's Radha Shyam, Shama Sham Geet we are doing. I think they did that. Radhe Govind Geet. Rahul did that. So let me add that. Some of the beautiful lines I like that. So I'm going to repeat that today. सोचना ही साधना है, गोविंद राधे, बार बार सोचना ये उनसे मिला दे, बार बार सोचना ये उनसे मिला दे, राधे राधे गोविंद गोविंद राधे, राधे राधे गोविंद गोविंद राधे. Thank you, everyone. All right, we see one more hand. Yes, Lakshmi ji, you wanted to go as well?
Hello, am I audible?
Yeah, you are, Lakshmi.
Yes.
Yeah, just I'm making myself trying to sing, but may not be as you sung.
No worries.
Guru Bhajati Sri Krishna 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 Bhajate Guru Siddhanta Tastva Badepi Kripalumi Guru Mahan. The Guru worships Sri Krishna and Sri Krishna worships the Guru. Although there is no difference between God and Guru, the Guru is greater from the practical point of view since he takes the fallen soul to God. Radhe Radhe.
Beautiful. Very nice, Lakshmi ji. A lot of Tattva Gyan loaded in that. So with that, we come to the end of today's session. I know it was a bit of a stretch session. More than we
Guru.
hope you enjoyed it. Tomorrow we have the quiz. So hope you all prepared for the quiz, Kahoot quiz that we are going to do. Our quiz masters are going to be ready. So we'll do the quiz tomorrow, and all the best to everyone. And thank you again for your enthusiastic, engaging participation. It's each one of you that makes it such an enriching session, and something that I look forward to every day. It's a spiritual party we have pretty much every night, right? And thank you, Cash, again for your amazing, participation or presentation today, which was phenomenal. I must say that. So thank you again. Radhe Radhe. Good night. Good day from my side. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Fill out the feedback tracker if not already. And I look forward to seeing you again tomorrow. Thank you from my side.
Thank you, Nitin ji. Stay blessed, everyone. Radhe Radhe. See you all tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.